Alright, want to put some opinions out there because, let's be real, everyone's entitled to an opinion. So, gonna lay it all out because I have been watching the political landscape for way too long. And the funny part about it is, you would think that on a policy aspect, with how out of touch these politicians were, that they would realize that their fucking problem is the factor that once they get elected to go to DC, they don't go to their districts. They literally go ahead and just stay there and think that they could go ahead and speak on what's best for their constituents, not watching the factor of the degradation of the complete and total communities that they end up going ahead and representing. All right? Ultimately, they don't recognize the gentrification that's happening. They don't recognize the corporatism that's ultimately ended up financially gutting everybody. You know, they don't recognize the factor that, public assistance programs are trying to go ahead and repaint the narrative, on why the economy is the way it is. It's pretty funny, too, that, now you got Fox News trying to go ahead and talk Bidenomics. Pretty funny. That's kind of the same fucking marketing shit when it comes down to the way that, Ronald Reagan, with the tax cuts and everything. But remember when it was said Reaganomics that, it was apparently going to be a good thing? Well, meantime, it was the beginning of complete and total racial disparity in the country. I mean, shit. Why the hell do we have these politicians in office that clearly haven't opened up a fucking history book? All right. I'm going to go ahead and just lay out policy-wise, literally, the policies that can go ahead and be able to fix numerous different factors. First off, religious tax exemptions. Get them gone. All right? Understand you're literally going ahead and giving churches carte blanche to go ahead and rob the people that actually sit in their seats absolutely blind while talking, God will go ahead and bring it to you. God will go ahead and give it to you. God will go ahead. Cut the mana principle bullshit. All right? Ultimately, at this point, do you not realize that with these televangelists and megachurches popping up throughout the entirety of the country, that ultimately they're absorbing so much of the gross domestic product, the GDP, that they're going ahead and causing impoverishment everywhere, while at the same time, with the fact that you had numerous different companies and corporations go ahead and, bring all the jobs and everything out to different countries, while at the same time not going ahead and guarding the fact of, hey, you know what? All right, we're not going to go ahead and buy your products that you went to go use damn near slave labor. All right? Why the hell should we? Why should we go ahead and support different countries going ahead and taking the people that they're supposed to represent as slaves and then go ahead and buy what they're offering? We shouldn't. And the sad thing is, we talk about how, clothing, fast fashion, going ahead and using slave labor from overseas, and sweatshops and everything. But we don't talk about these electronic companies going ahead and using parts. Literally, which, by the way, those recycled parts, they absolutely can be reused. If anything, it's good for the environment to go ahead and reuse them. But what's not good for the environment is going ahead and having them sent out, while at the same time, you got different distribution, lines that literally get used here, that completely end up kneecapping entire neighborhoods because you literally have these corporations that go ahead and focus in certain neighborhoods. All right? Funny thing is, being in Winston-Salem, you literally got the tobacco companies right here. All right? Now, funny thing is, they have done so much harm throughout the years. And I know I shouldn't be talking because I smoke cigarettes, But I at least recognize, at least the one good thing that they ended up doing was, uniting Winston-Salem and actually ended up making it one township, and economically ended up actually going and, giving a little bit of a leg up. All right? And the funny thing is, with that leg up, it ended up going ahead and causing other corporations to go ahead and set their manufacturing plants here. Like, for example, Haynes. All right? Now you got Haynes basically going ahead and gutting its workforce. And you have them go have their jobs go ahead and be offered through temp services, so that way that those temp services go ahead and get a cut, because let's be real, everything goes absolutely perfectly whenever you throw a middleman into the mix. Why the fuck should there be temp services to go ahead and get jobs that should literally be offering permanent positions, that should be offering health benefits, and that should be paying a living wage based on what the cost of inflation and the living cost and that local community is? All right? Right here, when it comes to the rent prices, when it comes to mortgage prices, literally the hourly rate should be $25 an hour. All right? It should literally be $25 an hour, and literally anybody being able to, that wants to, working full-time and being able to go ahead and get overtime, or going ahead and having, being able to make enough that they could go ahead and work part-time while still being able to have a proper work-life balance. And there's ways to fix this. All right? There's literal ways to fix this. Like, for example, making programs that actually go ahead and give privately owned companies that are run by local communities the same loan advantages and opportunities that you would end up giving these large corporations and manufacturing plants. Why are we not doing this? Not to mention that, but ultimately, the amount of money that gets spent on recidification because of the factor of wanting to make predatory programs, like, for example, trying to do anything that they can for the Department of Justice to end up keeping their win rate. Well, meantime, a lot of the times, those quote-unquote plea bargains that end up getting offered, they don't get offered by the fucking, actual Department of Justice. They get offered by bail bond services. Those literal bail bond services are basically going ahead and being like, all right, you know what? So yeah, we recognize that you got fucked up by the legal system, and that ultimately they ended up leaving you within an inch of your fucking life. But you came out of it alive. I'm going to go ahead and have you watch stories about all the people that didn't end up making it out alive, so that way you realize you are so much fucking luckier than any of those circumstances. While at the same time, not going ahead and fixing the factor that when somebody's biometrics ends up in the system, ultimately they end up getting harassed by law enforcement for years on end. If your literal business model is, hey, we're going to get you harassed by the people that are supposed to, quote unquote, serve and protect, recognize that the service we offer is that we are going ahead and shaking you down. So that way you understand, if you do not meet our extortion tactics, we will take away your freedoms. All right? But we're not going to offer you anything in exchange. If I go ahead and sell somebody something, but I don't have a fucking product to offer, I would end up getting charged with fraud. How the fuck are these bail bond services any different? All right? Overall, elimination and abolishment of cash bonds, all right? Literal shorter terms when it comes to, the amount of time there is for legislation bills, because you notice that, it literally ends up being a fucking decade that they end up accounting for when it comes to, the economic variables that they end up putting in legislation to be able to, end up impacting the entire economy. Why the fuck is it not a yearly basis, and note that legislation being based on the economic circumstances of those actual districts that these politicians are apparently supposed to be representing? Because it sounded like they're not doing much representing. To literally hear now that Republican Party is trying to go ahead and make it legal to fire people based on if they are taking birth control. Last time I checked, that's not constitutional. And then you have discriminatory variables on, employment based on if you have kids or if you don't have kids. While at the same time trying to be like, we don't want you to have birth control to be able to prevent you from being able to have kids, but we don't want to offer you fucking paid maternity leave and paternity leave. Pick a fucking lane. What do you stand for? All right? Ultimately, if you were to end up going ahead strengthening the fucking public assistance safety net, social safety net, actually go ahead and stop means testing what people are allowed to be able to earn, whether they're allowed to be able to inherit anything, trying to have a fucking limitation on what somebody's allowed to financially have based on what they're, whether they get Social Security income or Social Security disability income, and then having a work requirement based on time, while at the same time not trying to go ahead and give work credits for actual community service programs worked. Like, literally, this is going to destroy the future. And the sad fucking part about it is, most of these Republicans are literally in their geriatric years. Understand, the shit you are going and fucking rallying for right now is going to fuck your kids and your grandkids' futures up. The only thing that you're counting on is that you'll be fucking dead by the time that the impact actually happens. Get it together.